A prenuptial agreement is an agreement entered to, or actually, it's a contract between two parties who intend to get married, that they agree to set aside the properties they own not to be included as part of matrimonial property. So they actually, for example, if you're getting married at the age of 40, you are a divorcee, for example, or a widower, and you're getting into your second marriage, and probably in your previous marriage you had actually obtained a lot of assets. You had land and properties and even shares, etc. You might not want your new wife to actually claim these properties after you get married. So you list down the list of properties that you want to set aside, and they list down, because both parties have to participate in this process. And you set aside, and you say that in case of a divorce or in case of death or separation, I do not intend my apartment number 1 or my land property in this area to be included as part of matrimonial property. Yes.
So anybody who needs a prenuptial agreement is somebody who just does not want to share. To say between layman's, ama?
No.
If just in case it's a divorcee, they acquired in their previous marriage and they don't want to share. I mean, why are we using big words?
It may not just be a divorcee. You could be.
I mean, it could be I.
You may have never been married.
Yes.
And you have gotten yourself some property, inheritance, some gifts, etc. And you may decide not to include that. But also, you may also decide not to share your property. Or rather, you may decide to enter into a prenuptial agreement because you want to make the process of maybe succession or matrimonial separation shorter, and you also intend to save on money because you have already agreed. So for example, you have a properties, you get married, your marriage does not last long. You probably last, let's say, 5 years or 10 years, and you have to go to court, or one party, because people do not separate on good terms. The other person goes to court. If they go to court and you already had a prenuptial agreement, what that will mean is that you'll be able to not include those properties. And if you actually never bought any new properties after your marriage, it will be a shorter process, or you may not even have to go through that process. You separate, mnaachana tu roho safi.
Venye mulipatana.
Yes. So you just part ways.
But then what does that say about trust? Somebody told me to ask this question. They said, please ask the dear wakili. Sasa, mama amesema tufanye prenup. Ama baba amesema tufanye prenup. Where does the element of trust come into the relationship? Am I saying I don't trust this guy? Is this man telling me he didn't trust me? Because that's one thing that always pops up. Like, so you don't trust me or what?
Sometimes people trust each other to actually want to not go through those nasty processes. There's another reason why you may want to you may want to have a prenup is because there are third parties who are interested in this same property.
Okay.
So you don't want someone you love so much to go through torture, to go through harassment, maybe from your sisters or from your aunties and uncles over this property. So you want to make it clear from the onset. So you don't make the document because of mistrust. You also may be making the process because you want to make sure that you have the person does not have to go through a lot of drama.
Are you sure that this does not leave a gap of trust in the relationship? For real, tuseme tu kweli. Like someone will be sitting in the back of their mind thinking, because I feel like, I don't know, someone didn't want to share and you don't trust this person, but you're still gonna get married to them. But you're not hoping that it will work out. So just in case it doesn't, I want to be safe.
You see, prenups are entered into by parties voluntarily.
Yeah.
You're not coerced into the process. Number two, the process of signing a prenup
Yeah. is
required to be done when there is no pressure. And so, under what we call the common law, which is Waingereza, Sheria za wakoloni, the laws we copied as Kenyans, they require that you actually sign the prenup not 21 days before your marriage. So it needs to be way earlier, but not too close to your wedding day. Because maybe you may be under pressure, your biological clock has been ticking so much, and now you want to actually, you just want to close on this. You want this ring, and you want this white gown. So you forget.
And the label.
And everything. Number three, there's a requirement that you need to have sought out legal counsel. You need to have also consulted your lawyer, because there are factors which may be affected. There are things which may be affected, and you need sound legal advice before you sign a prenup.
So you can't just use a piece of paper and skip the lawyer. There has to be a lawyer present.
There has to be a lawyer, because the lawyer is a professional who understands the consequences of signing this document. Secondly, if the other person, for example, you have decided, you as Karigo, that you have convinced the person that you don't need to get a lawyer, and they have agreed. And they later on come to learn that this prenup is actually unfair to them. There's a provision they can actually go to court under the Matrimonial Property Act to challenge and to have this prenup made null or cancelled.
Because then I would ask, can you modify or cancel a prenup? Is
Yes,
it possible?
You can.
Okay.
Because a prenup is just like any contract, where any amendments or cancellations or changes have to be done in writing. Just like any contract, it's a proper outlined document. A document that states how you're going to amend, how many times you can amend, when you can amend it, when you can terminate it. It's a proper contract. Who is a party to this contract? And so if you later on want to change some of the provisions of this prenup, you can come back and actually amend it. Yes, just like any contract.
But both parties have to be present.
Both parties have to be present, because of course, if you amend it without the other person, then it means that you're not you're doing something which is not right. Because you need to involve the other party.
Then somebody asked, how does the Constitution, so I guess does the Constitution of Kenya recognize prenuptial agreements? That's a yes. But Ama, it doesn't.
That's a yes. I like these questions, this kind of question, because I feel like we as Kenyans, everything is under the Constitution. But the Constitution, one, recognizes right to property. So it recognizes that each person has a right to property. That there is parties can own property at during and at the end of a marriage, and this property becomes matrimonial property. And then the Constitution creates other laws, and one of the laws which now introduce prenups is the Matrimonial Property Act of 2013. So under Section 6.1, it came up with the provision that, no, actually, under Section 6.3, it came up with the provision that parties can actually enter. 6.1 was about definition of matrimonial property. And then 6.3 became now that parties can agree on how to share matrimonial properties.
And has this, so before 2013, it wasn't there?
No, it was not there.
So before 2013, there were no prenups? Ama, what was happening?
So before 2013, we had other old laws. We had an 1800 law It's skipping my mind, but it was called Married Women Property Act. Yes, and we had those laws, but at the same time, our constitution,
Yes.
the old constitution of 1963, provided that we could actually borrow the common laws, or other common laws were also part of the Kenyan laws. So for guys who were well exposed and knew about prenups, so you have done your research and you understand about the prenups, you could actually enter into an agreement
Yeah.
with your spouse or your soon-to-be spouse, and then rely on those common laws, other laws of other countries.
Yeah.
So it was there. Only now that in 2013 we have a backing. We have a law that now backs the Kenyan procedure of coming up with prenups. Yes.
Which favors both parties.
Which favors both parties, because again, if you find that prenup does not favor you, then that becomes a ground for you to actually go to court and have it cancelled.
Or modified.
Most of the time it's cancelled. That's a provision. Yes. Yeah.
So it's cancelled and then now you start another one.
You could decide to cancel it, or rather what the law provides for, it's actually section 6.4. It provides that you can set aside the prenup through a court process if you're able to prove three things. If you're able to prove that what I had mentioned earlier, fraud, coercion, and that the prenup is manifesting unjustly.
Meaning
Yes.
it's not in your favor.
It's not in your favor.
Okay. So how much does a prenup cost? I would not be representing my people if I did not ask this question.
No, Karigo, first of all, we need to go through what this prenup is, etc.
We
and
will.
Now,
We will. But how much does it cost? What
my
if you
answer
get a
would
price?
be, my answer would be,
Yeah.
your lawyer is able to advise you. Yes.
That's it.
Yes, your lawyer will be able to advise you.
That's it.
That's it.
So there's no significant price it.
We don't have a tag on a shelf somewhere. No, we don't have a tag on the shelf.
The going rate is from this amount to this amount. But okay, so it's just dependent on maybe the lawyer charges.
There's a way the Kenyan laws or rather guide lawyers on how to charge. And so,
can you give us a rough estimate? Just give us a rough estimate.
no, the Kenyan law actually says
that
there are factors to be considered. What is the subject matter? So Karigo probably has a house in Muthaiga.
Yeah.
And Karigo may also have so much. And so some of the lawyers may decide to charge you a percentage of the value of the assets that we are trying to protect, the interest you're trying to protect. We could actually go in that direction.
What percentage?
Other lawyers
may decide.
Other lawyers may decide to charge you a standard rate and say it's X amount. So it depends with which lawyer. And so maybe because you and I are friends and you come to me, probably I may be fair to you.
Spice.
Shantae's got a man. I don't know why Shantae is singing this song. Well, some of us, we are just here. We are just existing. This is SpiceFM and the show is The Adults in the Room. We have Eliud Ngugi with us in studio. Catch us live, spicefm.co.ke, 0719 012 is the number you can dial, and I'll be picking your calls from after 9. And 011 0288 is the number you should WhatsApp us on and give us your thoughts, your questions. And we have a comment here that I was showing you. Sorry, not showing you, I was telling you about.
Yeah.
let me read it now, all of it. I believe a prenup doesn't necessarily mean lack of trust. Let's be real. Some people will only want to be married to you for the benefits. So just means that if your spouse is to be a gold digger and you end up having a divorce, all you will remain with is a broken heart, and not a broken heart and empty pockets. And anyone who truly loves you will not be worried about signing the prenup. What is the success? Okay, what are the statistics of prenups in Kenya? What are the stats?
They are very low because one, prenups are just very new.
Okay.
They came in with the new law, Matrimonial Property Act 2013.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us may not have even heard about prenups before. And so very few guys are actually signing up and going in that direction.
Somebody would then ask the question, based on what you've said, what if I don't have anything I'm coming with to the marriage? Maybe one of my girlfriends, I love her so much, she told me, ulize hii swali, kama sina kitu, kama sina ene, mbona ni sign? I don't have anything. Nimekam tu venye niko. And Thanksgiving.
You see,
yeah,
the prenup may actually also capture the properties that you hope to get. So at that age, let's say you're that more than Kenyan. I think what's the marriage age in Kenya? 20?
Wait, what is the marriage age?
Where actually majority of the Kenyan people are getting married.
25 and between 25 and 30.
Yes. So they may not, they may just have gotten their first job and probably not having any property, and probably even taken a loan to finance a wedding.
Yes.
And so that does not actually say that they will not acquire properties together. And so it's advisable that when they are drafting their prenup, but they also highlight and say, in case we acquire this and that, then this is how we are going to share the property. But remember, prenup.
Prenuptials.
Yes. It's actually 2 words.
Yeah.
Before marriage, because nuptials are the marriage and pre-marriage. And so you can, it doesn't make so much sense to actually now prepare a document setting aside, because we have said is actually an agreement that discusses how you're going to let me actually read the act itself.
Please do.
Section 6 subsection 3.
Yes.
Parties, it actually says that despite subsection 1, which talks about the matrimonial property, the parties to an intended marriage may enter into an agreement before their marriage to determine their property rights. So you're determining your property rights, and you can actually now determine your property rights in the marriage and actually say that any property that we are going to actually purchase together, or you're going to purchase, it's going to be 50-50. Or in case of death, we are going to actually give these properties to our children and not to our relatives. Just our children. So you are determining the property rights of the parties. But you cannot really say that you are going to there's a provision that you cannot have because there are people who have tried to do it.
Okay.
They have entered into these prenups to try and override the children's rights. And so if you have a child and you have children, their rights are actually superior to the prenup agreement. So you can actually not push them away by saying that they will not get anything.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll come to that. But before we come to, because there's somebody who asked about children, asked conversation about children. But before we get to the kids, what are the basics of the prenuptial agreement? What are some of the basics?
The basics or grounds of a prenuptial agreement are basically what most of us, maybe the assets, The one basic is that you need to have substantial assets.
Yeah.
So that's one of the basics of entering into a prenuptial agreement, because then what are you protecting if not assets? Because as you have seen, it's under the matrimonial properties.
Yes.
So one of them is assets, and then the other basics is when there are children from another marriage.
Yeah.
So that's another basics.
Yeah.
And the third one is basically where there are other interested parties. So you need to set aside. So for example, you have a company jointly with someone else,
Yeah.
a friend, and you have shares 50-50.
Yes.
So in case of a divorce, etc., you actually want to outrightly state how those shares will be shared,
Yeah.
or where they go.
Yeah.
So you can have that conversation, or you can have that issue discussed in a prenup.
Yeah.
The last one is where either party's assets are subject to inheritance.
Okay.
So that's another basics on why you should actually prepare a prenup.
Yeah.
Because you may have assets, and these same assets may have other people who are interested, and they want the other people in the family, maybe your relatives, who are interested in actually coming after those properties.
Yeah. We're having a conversation on to sign or not to sign a prenuptial agreement. Eliud Ngugi is with us in studio. We'll be right back.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
Good evening. It is the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Where are you listening to us from? We are here in studio with Eliud Ngugi, and we are talking about prenuptial agreements. Are you about to get married? Do you feel like you want to keep some assets close to you? You don't want this story of sharing. I'm just putting it as it is, guys. Call us on 0719. My lines are now open. We'll be picking your call, 0719012600. I see most of you are really hard on the WhatsApp. I'm talking kujulikana. Anyway, 01102. Hey, 011. Oh God, this number 01102018816. I struggle with numbers that start with 01. I was born in the era of 0722. So 011 is a very strange number for me. I don't know. Anyway, so these gentlemen, there are very many guys who sent questions on the WhatsApp. But before, let's continue back to the basics. And somebody would ask, are kids, and in what capacity are kids involved in prenup?
Kids are involved in a prenup in terms of why maybe you want to protect their interest. So there's one angle to look at it. If you've gotten married and you had kids and you had also properties, the automatic thing would be that in case of a divorce, these properties would actually go to the children. But you may want to not give the children of the other party your property.
Why?
Because maybe you've said that they're not your children. So that may be one basis, or one of the reasons. But the other thing to consider where prenups are involved or included is where, for example, you need to provide for your children.
Yeah.
The other party cannot go to court and raise this issue and say, no, I stopped the person from selling the property or from sharing the rental income to give to the children of this other party.
Yeah.
Maybe a side chick. And so that would actually, that's what I was saying, that the issue to do with children is held in a superior way, that you cannot actually prepare a prenup whereby their rights are going to be overtaken or not to be honored.
Or given the priority.
Priority.
Ah.
And so you cannot have a prenup that says all these properties will be ours, it will be mine, and this one will be yours.
Okay.
And there are children involved. And these children probably need provision, they need shelter, they need education, etc. But now, when that time comes and they need this, their rights granted, you end up not honoring those rights. So that's where the children's rights are more superior to any prenup that you actually prepare and you have.
And that's a good thing, right?
It is a good thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So then somebody would ask, is there a legal way that then can separate property that was acquired before from what they acquire after? A legal law.
A legal law that separates property acquired before
And after.
and after.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the basis of actually the matrimonial property.
Okay.
The definition of matrimonial property is any property obtained at the beginning, during, and at the end of a marriage.
Okay.
And so anything obtained before the marriage,
Yeah.
if you've noted my, you've noted my words.
Before, during, and after.
Yes, no, at the
The
beginning,
beginning.
during,
And
and at the
after.
end.
Okay. Okay.
Anything acquired before the marriage and after the marriage is actually set aside, does not belong to matrimonial property. And so when your partner actually goes to court to demand for property that was obtained before the two of you got married, they will have a very hard case because that property is taken not to be part of a matrimonial property. And so as an ex-wife or a ex-husband, the only property that they can actually demand for is only the property that was acquired in the marriage, not before the marriage. But now the prenup now comes in to say that we don't want to even get to this stage whereby you're going to come and start asking for my property once we separate. And I don't want you to actually fight my relatives once I die.
Yeah.
I want you to have an easy way out because we have a document here that has actually said who and whose property the property that I had before we got married belongs to. And so it becomes quite clear in these scenarios of separation, divorce, or death.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now let's bring the conversation of death. In the event that because Kiplagat has asked, what happens to a prenup agreement in an event that one of the partner dies before the contract expires? And I have when the contract expires?
No. The contract does not expire
never
unless
expires?
you give it grounds. Unless you state that it shall expire within a certain period of time. But it's taken not to
Say
expire.
that again. It can expire?
Unless we said a prenup is more like a contract.
Yeah.
So you can have terms saying this is only likely to take part if our marriage does not go past 20 years. You may have such a clause.
Oh.
Yes.
And that's where also some put in the clause of if someone is unfaithful.
Yes. So you may have such clauses that may determine or may decide that this prenup is no longer going to be in place. We are going to now come and fight for these properties.
So
Yes.
what would you advise? Have a never-ending contract. Should not have an expiry date.
It's not advisable to have an old contract. In terms of having a long a contract that is going to take long or that has a long life
Span.
Yes.
So what do you mean?
So what I mean is, because there are changes which may happen during the course of your marriage,
Yeah.
and it may become difficult to actually prove some of these things. So, for example, like our parents who got married and actually stayed in the marriage.
Yeah.
And suppose there are very few cases of couples in their maybe 70s who divorce. In such a situation, not even divorce or even death, you see, it looks so unfair. At that point, you've been married to someone for 50 years. And when it comes to the time to share the inheritance of a person, you pull out that prenup that actually states that all the property probably that has been gotten belongs to the both parties at 50-50.
Yeah.
And you know for sure that this property may, in the older generation where only one maybe one parent then used to work. If this one person is one who has actually worked for this property, it would be so unfair to deny this other person a share of this property. Yes.
So then the question on what happens if the prenup agreement in the event that now somebody dies, what happens?
It comes into play now. That's why we actually it comes to life.
What if you didn't have kids?
This is where it comes to life. Because
And so now this guy is dead. So now these things go where?
no, what we are saying is if you had a prenup that have actually set aside your property that you had gotten when you were single and you die, and the prenup provided for this property to be yours, then the other party does not come laying claim on this property. So your next of kin, who you have indicated, because you also need to look at that.
So
it's all about drafting.
Even in a prenup, you put in a next of kin.
It's all about drafting because, and that's why you need to go to a lawyer. Because a lawyer is going to look at these scenarios whereby you're saying the property belongs to me before we get married. And so, in case we divorce, in case I die, then you should not lay a claim on this property. Then who takes this property? That's where now the wording comes in, and you're able to say that in case I die and the property I had obtained when I was single is the only property maybe that we have. This property should go to probably my mother because I love her so much, or should go to a children's home. I should be gifted to a church or to a mosque or to this community. You know,
before we began the conversation, I said to you, what is it, Eliud?
I'm waiting for something big
No.
to hit me.
Remember on during the break, I was like, so I can get a prenup. And then you said, no, just trust your person. Just trust your person. I'm like, me. But anyway, somebody asked, does it prove your partner genuinely loves you for who you are and not because of the wealth you possess by signing a prenup? Let's just lay it down. Is it a true sign? This person is not a gold digger. Do you at our Facebook wamesema yes for all the gold diggers? Is signing a sign of trust, like through your experience with prenups?
Karigu, you're putting me in a very hard situation, and I don't think we have a loveometer, trustometer to gauge whether the person trusts you or loves you by just making you sign the agreement. But in most instances, of course, I tend to, as a firm believer of marriage and someone who loves love, I tend to believe that marriages are meant to last. Once you agree to do something, you should actually just focus on it. Once you get into something, you should jump into it fully and not have one foot in and another out.
Is a prenup a sign of that?
And so, don't cut me short.
Because I'm sorry. Hey, Pauline.
And so, when you actually get into this, you see, you need to also inquire from the other party. What is the reason? Why do you want us to actually sign this document? Why do you want us to have a contract indicating that the property you have will continue being yours and you don't want it to be included into this pool called the marriage.
Yeah.
And so it's more about inquiring the other person's intention. You should be able to inquire and find out from the person.
Yeah.
And you will tell whether this person has trust issues or loves you or has love issues or is only there because of your money. You should be able to tell. But you are able to find out, because some people may get into it with a very clear intention. And the intention is to make sure that we are determining how our properties will be shared. Our properties will be shared in the marriage. And so you're actually maybe even setting out this unfair rule, which is 50-50. But whatever we actually get, we are putting it in writing. Whatever we obtain together belongs to us, and in case of anything, in case I die, you take my 50, and this 50 belongs to you as well. So you end up having 100.
Yeah.
And so you're determining, or if in case I die, all these things that I have are going to go to these other people that we care so much about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there couples who've actually, and then this was not on the list of questions, but when you were talking, I was thinking.
I've not even seen your question.
Are there couples who roho safi wameachana because of a prenup? They're like, I can't do this. You don't trust me. Wacha ikae.
I've not come across couples who have separated because of a prenup.
Okay.
I think people separate for more serious issues
Then a prenup.
than a prenup.
A prenup is not serious.
You see, the prenup is talking
Eliud.
about your property, the property you have then.
Yeah.
And so I have not come across such. I've only come across people who genuinely do not trust, and they don't trust because they have very good reasons.
Past trauma.
Yeah.
Shenanigans. Yeah.
Such things.
Yeah.
So they have very good, or even the behavior of a person. Their leg is, one is in, the other one is out.
So then why get married? We're having a conversation on reasons to sign or not to sign a prenuptial agreement. I'm going to leave you with some Asha, Call Me a Mac.
Spice.
Maroon 5 feat Cardi B. I love me some Cardi B. Girls like you. This is a special dedication to all my girls. It's Thursday. I'm giving you a shout out. Those girls that are going for the conference in Georgia for I Am Africa. I wish I was with you. Have a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic time. Yeah, nimetuma salamu. This is SpiceFM, and the show is The Adults in the Room. The adults are you, myself, Karigo Gatara, and Eliud Ngugi, advocate of the High Court. And he is giving us the truth and the fact, according to the law, of whether you should sign or not to sign a prenup agreement. So we were talking about, before we went to the break, the Cardi B break, we had a conversation on whether, like, for real, it's love. And you said you just gotta trust your partner and believe in them, right?
No, I said you need to figure out
their intention.
Of
why
and
they
they need to
bring
also
up-
share the intention.
Yeah.
But also, in addition to that, they also need to actually disclose fully everything that they own.
How do you know they've disclosed fully? Let's say like now in my I'm over 35. I meet a guy who is in his mid 40s. I'll assume he has property. I'll assume he has assets, etc. But how will I know for sure that he has exposed all of them? How will I know?
That's where now the two of you need to be honest with each other.
Okay. And are people usually honest?
I think the people I talk to are honest.
Is it the way you hesitated? Miriam, one of them hesitate. And please log on to spicefm.co.ke and see the way Eliud has. He took a moment to breathe. Akiwa baba. Anyway. Because who is more often than not honest? The babe or the guy?
That's a very hard question to answer. I
Sema
think guys are more honest than the ladies. Men are more honest.
I'll believe you. So, somebody asked, so you've done the prenup, right? Does anything, okay, what can affect a prenup agreement? Somebody is asking, can the loss of a job, your monthly income, your sources, your resources, where you get your income, can it affect a prenup agreement?
No, it cannot affect a prenup agreement because a prenup agreement is about your properties.
Yeah.
And one of some of your properties may also be your shares. And so these properties, the prenup just tries to set them aside and say that I had land, I had a car before we got married.
Yeah.
That logbook and that title deed will remain in my name
Yeah.
and will not be included in the matrimonial property. And so in case of a divorce, we shall not include those properties in there.
Yeah.
And you have no right to come and fight for them and demand for them because they are 100% mine.
Yeah.
That's what a prenup is. And so a job, loss of a job does not affect that prenup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I wonder where that person was going with that question. Okay, so hey Spice. Okay, so what then happens to property you have acquired when you get separated? I think you answered this question.
Yeah.
Ama utajibu tu asikie
I'll
tena.
just answer.
Yeah.
Property you have acquired when you get separated, that is your property. And in this case, the separation needs to be a proper divorce. So not just a separation where the person has moved out of the house, but you have gone to court and you've gotten the decree
Yeah.
that you are no longer married to this person.
Yeah.
And so if you have that decree after going through the divorce process and you acquire new property, of course, you're not with this person.
Yeah.
That's your property,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But then somebody asks, and this is okay. So what happens to the debts that are incurred during the marriage handled in the event of a divorce or death? The debts incurred.
The debts
Does
incurred,
this affect a prenup? Because somebody might say, I want to clear off this debt.
it actually affects.
Oh, it affects.
It affects in a
How?
very positive way.
Okay.
Because you have already said that this is my property. So if you acquire debts in the marriage, then there's no way you're going to actually even use these properties to pay off these debts because you already excluded them from the matrimonial properties.
Yeah.
The other thing will be that the person may have, because I'm also taking the debt to be, maybe you've taken a mortgage from the bank. And the one document you present to the bank is a title. You give a title deed to the bank and then they give you money. So if you have secured this debt using a title deed, it will definitely be a title deed that has your information, that
Yeah.
has your name on it.
Yeah.
And so it does not affect this other party.
Yeah.
And so if you are unable to pay off your debt and you actually auctioneers came after you,
Yeah.
most likely they will not touch your partner's property which was included in the prenup. They will only go up to take what belongs to you as a person
Yeah.
and what belongs to or what was acquired in the marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's definitely will favor the person that's not in the debt.
Yes.
Spice.
And if this man asks you if you can sign a prenuptial agreement, me, I'll just tell you, you enter with one eye closed and the other one open. Yeah, this is SpiceFM and we are the adults in the room. My name is Kari Gogatere and in studio with you and I is Eliud Ngugi, advocate of the High Court. Reasons to sign or not to sign a prenuptial agreement. You may call me 0719 012 600 or send us a WhatsApp on 01102 0188 162. So the question that now we will I want us to go into is from the WhatsApp. It's the second. Hi, Karigo and Eliud. Does this mean that inherited property is counted out of a prenup? Since you've said property gained while single isn't part of the agreement.
No.
Ndivyo ameuliza.
No.
Am I repeat?
Yeah.
Hi, Kariko and Eliud. Does this mean that inherited property is counted out of a prenup, since you've said property gained while single isn't part of the agreement?
No. It's actually the other way around. That property gained is actually what you include in the prenup, and you set it aside. You exclude it from being a matrimonial property.
Yeah.
So
The one that now my dad and my mom have given me,
yes,
I don't include it in.
you don't include it in the prenup.
Okay.
Yes, it also does not qualify to become a matrimonial property because it's a gift that you got.
What if my man wants me to include it?
You can agree and you include it. You can
So-
include it.
So what you're saying is your lawyer will first ask you this land, say for example, where did you get it from? And you say, okay, my dad gave it to me. So then he'll advise and say, no, this one we can't put it in because it's not something that you acquired. It's something you are gifted with.
There's a difference between a gift and a property you have obtained.
Yeah.
And most of the gifts are excluded. For example, in the law of succession, they are excluded to be part of that list of properties to be inherited
Yeah.
if you had gotten a gift.
Yes.
When it comes to prenups and matrimonial property, a gift is also excluded because it was as part of, just similarly to what you have also bought using your money. It is also your property as Karigo. It is not our property.
Yeah.
And so it will be one of the properties you can list in the prenup and say, Karigo's property, land A, land B, land C.
Yeah.
James' property, land Z, land Y, land W.
Yes.
So you include it there, and then you go further and say that these properties are not to be included as part of matrimonial property. Basically, that's what the prenup is.
Wow. Okay. So what are the options of income during the marriage? Will it be considered separate property or marital property?
Matrimonial property is. Let me go back to my act, because the act actually define what matrimonial property is, and it says, for purposes of this act, matrimonial property means A, matrimonial home or homes, B, household goods and effects in matrimonial home
Yeah.
or homes,
Yeah.
C, any other immovable and movable property jointly owned and acquired during the subsistence of the marriage.
Yes.
And so,
Immovable, movable property. Okay.
yeah, immovable, movable. So the cars,
Yeah.
etc. Then household goods and effects. If you have gold, utensils, and you have all these cabinets and TV and sound system, household goods are part of matrimonial property. Salary, income does not become matrimonial property unless you convert it into an asset. So you end up buying that bed, or you end up buying that home theater. Yes, or sufuria and dishes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they are being separate, okay, based on what you've said, because this movable and immovable property is still sticking in my mind. If it's 50-50, so now we divide 50-50 everything. Everything.
If you're married to an accountant, we will have
I'm trying
a book. Eh?
You know, the other day I joked on social and I said that if I ever cohabited with a man, which is something I would never do ever again, is that if I'm the one who bought the curtains with his money, by then I'm living with those curtains.
But you bought the curtains with his money.
But I'm the one who bought them. I went, I had them measured, I chose, I gave design, etc, etc. Yeah, little to do. I put in the effort and the work.
So that's why matrimonial property is not divided 50-50. Because you measuring, going downtown easily, and actually getting these people to actually do the work,
Yes.
you doing the work in itself
Yes.
counts for a contribution. So you find matrimonial property has the indirectly acquired and directly acquired matrimonial property.
Okay.
And so you will be asked, what is your direct contribution and what is your indirect contribution? And so it is never a 50-50 kind of a thing. The effort put also for you cooking for the man and washing and etc.
Yeah.
is also an indirect contribution to the matrimonial property.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, definitely. That one, of course. Yes. Okay. Somebody asked, what happens in the event that, when it comes to the options of maintenance or spousal support based on the individual situation and possible future situations? Let's say this man decides, I'm going to quit my job and work from home. Can this affect the prenup?
No, it does not affect the prenup, because if it comes to issues to do with support, these are separate issues.
Can somebody go and say, let me sell this piece of land, and maybe it was 50-50 in the event of separation? Like, can they do that? Because I'm trying to imagine a scenario where maybe, like COVID times, you've signed a prenup. You know you have some land somewhere that you've both acquired. In the prenup, it's what, 50-50, right? Ama it goes to the kids. Let's say it goes to the kids if in the event that we have kids.
The question is, you had some land you acquired jointly.
Jointly.
So this is matrimonial property.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes, matrimonial property.
Uh-huh.
Then now in the prenup, we agreed that in the event that one of us passes away or we have a divorce, this property goes to the children. Sawa, so we've agreed. But now it's COVID. I've lost my job. Oh, I have no money. We have no money. No, my person has money, but I have no money. And they're just saying, hang in there, hang in there. Me, I know I have a piece of asset somewhere. I can sell and it can be able to support capital for a kabiashara that I can skuma as I look for employment. Is this something that one can do? Then, hear me out. I've made my chums. Then I rudisha.
If you're going to do anything contrary to what you have agreed in the prenup,
Can they know
then you'll
what I
be
do? That's my question.
you'll be acting you'll be contravening the prenup that you entered into, the agreement you entered into. And so you cannot go about selling the property just because you know you're going to acquire another one and replace it.
Yeah.
Because you have already bound yourself in this document and say that this is how we are going to share our properties. And in case of anything, you have not even given that exemption, that in case of COVID or in case of sickness or loss of a job, that you can go ahead and sell the property. No, you have not. So any action which contravenes whatever you had agreed is what would say most of the time is illegal and it's unlawful.
Can you be what can happen if you're shikwad now? Because I'm trying to think, like, say you get caught, your spouse catches you. Ama in the event your spouse dies, then that's when you find out. So now you are alive. What can happen? Can I like have you arrested? Like, I'm serious.
There are people who
Because there are people who do these things.
There are people
no?
who do those things.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have followed the procedure, and the procedure is we had come up with an agreement on how to share our property.
Yeah.
And you went behind my back and maybe even changed some of those things.
Yeah.
Or you went behind my back and committed a crime.
Yeah.
Which in this case may have been selling a property which was not part of a matrimonial property.
Yeah.
You find some situations where couples have gone to court and fought.
Wow.
They have actually sued the other person and
Yeah.
they have said nasty things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello,
happens.
Spice.
Hello, Spice. Hello,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. My name is Sabri from P7.
Say your name again.
My name is Sabri from P7.
Okay, continue. Ask your question.
Okay, my question is, if you and your partner, you bought a land or a car for 50-50,
Yes.
but you feel like selling it, but your partner does not feel like selling it, what can you do?
So you bought land 50-50 and your partner wants to sell it and you don't want to sell it. What can you do?
Is
Okay, what's your name, sir?
agree from P7.
Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
So you've bought land together with your partner and now you want to sell it, but your partner doesn't want to sell it.
Of course, you need to consent, because if you have,
Sounds frustrated.
if you are in this situation and you need, for example, you need money, it could be a very real life scenario where you are in a fix and you need to pay off something.
Yes.
And the only way you can pay off this is by selling this piece of land, and your partner is not going to allow you to sell the land.
Yeah.
One thing that you need to understand is especially agricultural land, which is property land that is not in the town. You have to get a consent from the land board for you to be able to proceed with the sale. Number two,
What?
if you're selling this land that is jointly owned, maybe the caller would need to tell us whether the title deed is also in their joint names or it is just in his name, only that they contributed 50-50. Because if maybe the land is jointly in their names, then it will be difficult because the other person has to consent. If the title deed is only in his name,
Yeah.
but the wife may have contributed the other share of buying this land.
Yeah.
The one thing that he also needs to understand is that in Kenya, we came up with a very serious law under the Land Act that requires that you need to get a spousal consent before you sell any property. And so the title may be just in your name and you actually need the money, but if you proceed and maybe even sign off the sale agreements and receive money and you sign the transfer forms
Yeah.
without informing your wife,
Yeah.
it will be an illegality and you may find yourself in trouble. So your wife needs to actually consent to any transfer
Whether
of property.
whether her name is on the title deed or not.
Yes, whether her name
Bora,
is,
you bought it together.
as long as
But
you're
how will
married.
Ooh.
As long as you're married, she does not even need to know that you're selling the land or you own that piece of land. As long as you acquired that land during the marriage, your spouse is required to consent to any sale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Meskia. Ay. Don't go selling land without your spouse knowing, my friend. The law will catch up with you. This is SpiceFM and the show is The Adults in the Room.
Spice.